Scattered throughout Alabama and our world as well, there are places that hold strange unknown powers and secrets. Some of us have been fortunate enough, or perhaps unfortunate enough, to encounter these places. They are mystical, magical, perhaps enchanted, and sometimes cursed. They are known as vortexes, portals, doorways, passageways to other worlds and other dimensions, to times in the past or to times in the future. For the most part, they lay hidden, lurking deep in the shadows. So ask yourself before you make this journey tonight, can I handle the truth? But once you find the truth, your life is forever changed. You are now about to cross into the shadow regions, where reality and the supernatural mingle.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Alabama Bigfoot Society. This is Mary Catherine Scruggs. We have Dorothy Sullivan and Jeff Williams from Mississippi, and we have Dale Boswell from Phoenix. That's city, not Arizona. It's good to have everybody tonight. Tonight we're going to be doing our Halloween special. We've got several ghost stories we're going to share with everybody, and we want you to really enjoy yourself and kind of kick back, turn the lights out, and just listen to us, and maybe you'll get a buzz. Hold on. What is that? There's a cat out here. Where's the cat coming from? Oh, my goodness. Here, kitty.
Good gracious.
Cat? Oh, that
one sick cat.
Somebody's dying. Get out of here, cat. Get out of here. I'll be back. Oh, just a fool. Oh, goodness. Well, tonight we got a special guest, Dale Boswell. And I think his wife is on here, too. And we're going to start with you, Dale, since gentlemen first, you know.
Well, I certainly do appreciate it, Miss Mary.
That's age before beauty.
Oh, Lord. Well, I do appreciate it. And actually, Robin isn't feeling too well, so she's asleep right now. But I can still tell the story, even though she was there.
Well, go right ahead, buddy.
You ready? All right. Well, I have several ghost stories that actually I have experienced myself, but I'm going to tell you one in particular that was really odd, and I actually caught some EVP, some audio, accidentally. I wasn't expecting it, but the story goes. I think it was in 2014. I was getting ready to go on a road trip, a business road trip. And it was going to be a couple of weeks, and it was the first time, if ever, that I've been out of town, you know, business-wise, that Robin didn't go with me. But this time she couldn't go. So you know, I was obligated to go, even though I really didn't want to, because she was going with me, and she was sad because I was going. But, you know, we were going to make it happen. So before I left, we went to the IHOP to eat lunch at the International House of Pancakes, and we were filming for a documentary for this road trip, actually. So I started there with our goodbyes, I guess you could call it. So we were sitting there at the table, and she had a camera and I had a camera, and it was something I was going to put together later on, like I say, you know, for a possibly documentary, and I actually never did finish it. But we were, and I think I sent you an EV. I think I sent you a copy of this. I don't know if you can play it or not when I get to it, but we were kind of sad and a little dramatic, you know, but and I said something like you know, it's breaking my heart, you know, I don't want to go, but in the, it sounded like it's in the foreground, but there's a voice or something that was just so plain, and it said, sad.
It's the hardest day of my life. I'm trying to put on a smile. my heart is breaking. But 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 my heart is breaking.
Just like that. And actually, I didn't even catch it till several months later, when I was looking over the some of the film footage, and I was actually looking at the monitor at the time when I caught it. You know, I just listened to the audio, and I thought, what in the world is that? And I listened closer, and man, it said sad. So and it was in the middle of the day at an IHOP. Like I said, of all the places you would think you would. A ghost would be hanging out, or a spirit, I don't know. And if you listen to it, it actually sounds. I don't know if it was being sympathetic because we were sad, or if it was some little old smart aleck ghost, you know, walking by saying sad, old pitiful, you know. I don't know, but if you can play it, I mean, it's very it's spooky, you know.
I will put a little clip in there when I do the editing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, that'd be great. But it was just something I never expected, and to this day I haven't heard anything like that. And we still go to that IHOP occasionally, you know. And I'm always looking around, but it wasn't very spooky, but it was kind of ironic. Now I'll tell you real quick a spooky story that happened to me when I was about 11 years old. We lived in beautiful historic Eufaula, Alabama, in an old colonial style house. And one night we were playing hide and go seek outside, and you know, had the street lights going on the front sidewalk and stuff. But anyway, I had run around to the back side of the house where the shadows were, you know, where I thought I could hide real good. So I stepped under the house. You know, that back in those days the houses were like maybe 3 or 4 feet off the ground with these old stone pillars, you know. So I was just small enough where I could crawl up in there. And I remember going under the house, just inside the shadows, like 2 or 3 pillars inside, I guess, 2 or 3 pillars deep, I guess you would call it. But man, I can still see it to this day. I remember looking up and seeing a white arm, like a white. Was like a lab coat, like a white doctor's lab coat, and a white hand, and it was petting a white dog come out in front of one of the pillars, and that's all I could see. And I remember just actually just looking and staring and wondering, what in the world, you know. And I was waiting for somebody to come around to find me, though, but nobody come around to the back side of the house. They were all staying out front. Anyways, that scared me, and I come running out, and I remember Mama telling me that I was white as a ghost when I come in the house and told her about this. Well, ironically, a few days later, my dad was telling someone where he worked at about this, and they knew where we lived at, and they said, Mr. Boswell said, do you know who formerly owned that house, who lived in it for many years? And of course he said no. He said it was kind of weird. He said, but it was a veterinarian, and said he had died in the house. And you know, and it just kind of put the 2 and 2 together, you know, like a doctor's lab coat in a hand petting a white dog. So that was kind of weird. And you know, before that we would have little strange things going in the house, like the lights would flicker on and off, and upstairs they'd come on and off by themselves, you know. But we never paid it a whole lot of attention, you know, because it wasn't that scary to kids. But it was kind of a scary time, and it's one of the moments I just will never forget. And I guess that's about my spookiest ghost story.
You got ready to leave and moved somewhere else in a hurry, didn't you?
Oh, you got that right. I mean, I didn't go around to the back side of the house at night anymore. I guarantee you that.
Well, Jeff, you got one you want to tell us?
Hey, Jeff, start with the little boy.
Yeah, I told you last week about the old Waverly Mansion, and I sent Mary some pictures of the mansion. It does look kind of spooky, you know. I didn't really think about it before, but after I took the pictures, I realized it does. But I do have something that was weird, but I don't know if maybe it's more religious than I was. I was a police officer for a lot of years, and anyway, we got a call at like 3:15 a.m. one morning, and it happened to be on Easter Sunday. And of course, I was the first one. It was about a church, and they said the lights were flashing on and off inside the church. Well, of course, it didn't. This little city I'm in over here is not very big. It can take about 2 or 3 minutes to make it to a location. And anyway, I made it there first. Had another officer coming up behind me, and I saw the lights. They were blinking on and off in different rooms. You could tell it was flashing, almost a musical type thing, Anyway, I went to the back. The other officer went to the front, and of course it was locked up, And the people next door had a key. They were elders of the church, and they brought keys, and we went completely through that church. There was no one inside. Not a soul. We checked the attic. We checked everywhere. We finally called the fire department because we to come in and bring a man to check the wiring to make sure nothing was wrong with the wiring, because we didn't want the place to burn down. But it was really strange, that lights would be flashing in different rooms like that and nobody inside the building. They didn't find anything wrong with the electrical, so still a mystery.
Did the lights continue? Did they continue to flash when you were in the building?
No, they stopped. As soon as we opened the doors, they stopped. There wasn't a soul in that building. There was only one way in, 2 ways in and out, front door and back door. Windows did not open. They were the type, in a lot of sanctuaries they don't open. So there's no way out. And we secured the building pretty fast, And of course, to keep on investigating, because we knew somebody had to be in there, but there was not a soul in that building. So it's still a mystery to me, that one.
I believe so.
I've often wanted to go back at like 3:15 a.m. on an Easter morning and just to see if I could see anything else, but I never have. Never made it back over there. It was sure strange. I was telling Mary earlier about a time we went camping. This is kind of a funny. It's not really. This is in no way a real ghost story, but I had a ghost. I really had a ghost. We went camping when I was a kid, and we were in this pasture of one of our neighbors here. They had kids, and we were kids at the same time. And anyway, we camped out that night, and I remember looking out the front of that tent. Everybody else pretty much went to sleep. I looked out the front, and there was the biggest ghost you've ever seen out there. Not too far from the tent. I was afraid to wake them up. I was afraid to run. I was afraid to do anything. So I sat there all night watching that ghost move around that field. It was the biggest, whitest ghost I've ever seen. And come daylight, there was that old horse out there, and he had brown on both ends and a white spot in the middle. So it was funny. I stayed up all night because of the horse eating.
Love it.
What about you in the church?
Yeah.
In my church?
Yeah.
You had something earlier. You said something earlier about you had something about church.
Okay, yeah. I played the piano, and I was playing for the Bible school we were having one night, and we were just over with it, and the kids were all back in the back eating ice cream and stuff, and a bunch of the teenagers staying there with me because we were practicing, and I was helping them write songs and stuff. And they actually wrote a song during Bible school, and they did a good job of it. But we were sitting in there at the piano, and this little girl that was wearing a blue dress came running through the church, come around and went in through the door by the organ on the other side. And I looked at the people there, and they looked at me, and they took off to follow where she went, and we went the other way, and there was nobody there. There was no little girl there that night that was wearing a blue dress. We don't know where she came from. She had a blue dress, and she had blonde hair. Well, we all got everything cleaned up and ready to leave that night, and we had ice cream. They had made sundaes for them, and they had cleaned the kitchen up, and everything was spotless and everything. We went outside, and we were closed the door, and we were standing there talking, and all of a sudden we heard something go and hit the door on the inside. Well, we, curious, thought, well, maybe somebody's still in there, Open the door, and there's a spoon with ice cream on it laying in front of the door, and the smudge on the back of the door where the spoon had been thrown and hit it, but there's nobody in the building. The ice cream's in the freezer, and there were no dirty spoons left when we left in there. So we figured the little girl went and got ice cream after we left.
Wow.
That is.
That's spooky.
Yep.
That is spooky.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, y'all talking about the church. I'll tell you one about the church. Dorothy, I've mentioned to you that I have like a deliverance ministry, and one day I was up at the church, and I'd always told my sister, I said, now, if something starts happening in this church, you get all the little ones and you put them up under you and you start pleading the blood of Jesus on them. Well, that was this girl. She had been running around on her husband, got caught. And it just so happened that she came to church that night. And I got up and I told my son, he played the piano. I said, just play the chorus of this. And I started to sing, Yes, Jesus Loves Me. And then I sung it, and I felt the power of God just come all over me. Next thing I know, this deep bellowing from this woman started coming up. And she comes running to the altar, and she falls down at the altar, and she starts crying. Everybody in the church jumps up and runs to go put hands on her, but I felt in my spirit, no, don't touch her. So everybody went back to their seat while she was up there in the altar just crying and just hollering and screaming. I mean, it was coming from the depths of her soul. It didn't even sound human-like. And I just kept singing the chorus of Yes, Jesus Loves Me. And I sung that several times, and all of a sudden I saw her. She had, excuse it, but it's what happened. I saw, her nose started running and draining, and she even peed on herself. She was in so much agony. And then all of a sudden I saw coming up out of her a demon. And it appeared to be about 6.5 foot tall. Had horns. Okay, that's my dog going off. It had horns. And it looked like it had burnt leather and skin over a skeleton. Well, it comes out of her, and it starts running toward me with its claws out. And I'm standing there. I'm trapped up against the side door. I don't have no place to go, but I didn't feel led to go anywhere. And here this demon comes charging at me. Then all of a sudden it went around me to the left out the door. Well, after that, I said, all right, everybody, y'all come up and lay hands on her and pray for her. I mean, I didn't lay hands on the girl either because I didn't feel like I should be laying hands on nobody. And then, huh?
I said, you always know when to and when not to.
Yeah. My mother came up to me and she said, Mary Catherine. I said, yes, ma'am. Did you see that thing come out of that woman? I said, what did you see? She said, I saw that demon come up out of her, and it said it had its out right towards you. When it got in front of you, it went to your left out the door. I said, yes, ma'am, that's what I saw. But also my sister was sitting back there, and she had every one of those little ones. She knew what she was feeding the blood of Jesus on that children in that church. Now, God delivered that woman that night. And I tell you what, people that don't believe in demons, there's something wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, Dorothy, you got another story you said.
Well, I'm full of them. Well, the first experience that I remember having as far as a ghost was when I was about 12 years old. And my grandmother had died a few months before that. And it was extremely cold weather, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and my quilt had slid down towards the end of the bed. Well, I woke up when I was fixing to reach down and get it and pull it back up, and my granny came out of my closet, came over, pulled my blankets back up over me, patted me on the shoulder, turned around and went back in the closet and closed the door. And she was wearing a paisley dress and a white sweater and her black shoes that she always wore, and her hair was put up in the bun. But she came out and covered me up. Of course, now I didn't sleep much after that. Not for a long time. It kind of unnerves you a little bit.
I can imagine. There's a.
Go ahead, Dale.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking there was one other time, actually a couple of times. Rob and I, we used to do quite a bit of ghost hunting. We had all the equipment. We actually still do the K2 meters and things. And we've been to St. Augustine, Florida. And investigated a tower there and the castle, the fort, and thing. And it's like and the same places that the ghost hunters and ghost adventurers have investigated throughout the years. But anyways, one of the first times we went to Pine Mountain, Georgia, where my sister lives, and her best friend's family had a cabin way out in the woods, and it just looked like a scary place to go, So one night, everybody wanted to go ghost hunting, So my sister and my niece, and so they said, well, let's go to my friend's cabin out there in the woods and check it out. So we went out there, and Alicia was the girl's name that owned the cabin. And got there, and of course, they had no electricity, so that knocked out, anything that could interfere with our equipment, pretty much. And we had K2 meters, and being it was Alicia's house, we asked her to start some kind of a conversation, and see if we could get any kind of reaction. And her grandparents was the ones that had owned the house. And I can't remember exactly. She had little cute nicknames that she would call them. Like, I think it was Granny Hooch or something like that. But and Pawpaw. But anyway, she would say, "Granny, is this you? Are you here, Pawpaw?" And the K2 meter would just flicker just a little bit, just like over into the yellow, just a little bit. And I thought, that's so odd. And she kept asking, "Granny, is that you? Can you come talk to us?" And this went on for a little bit. And finally, just out of the blue, she said, "Toe." And the meter went into the red and just held there, just like something grabbed a hold of it. And our eyes lit up, and we looked at Alicia, and tears were coming out of her eyes. And we asked her, "Toe?" She said, that was my private nickname for my daddy. She said that's what I called him, Toe. And we just wonder if the whole time she was asking who was there, if it might have been her dad. And when she would say Granny, and I can just kind of picture this, that the spirit or whatever would get a little closer to the K2 meter to kind of make it flicker a little bit, just to say, "Nope, not me." Or she would say Pawpaw, and it, "Nope, not me." And finally, when she said Toe, it's just like it grabbed it. And I mean, I never, and we could not duplicate it for nothing. Like I said, there's no electricity in there, and we were taking photographs and things. And in one of the photographs, there was it looked like the size of a basketball. Was an orb was over the top of her head while this was going on, and that's very emotional for her. And I can imagine, because she was very close to her dad. But that was one of the really scary moments that I've encountered.
Yeah, I think you're right in that it was him all the time, because I had a friend who had a stroke and it affected his speech. And when he would be trying to tell something, Lord knows they always called me to come because I could always figure out what he was trying to say. And I would ask questions, and if I was close, he'd say, and then when I would say whatever it was, he'd say, yes!
Oh, wow.
And so that sounds to me like what was happening there is no, and then yes, because it was him.
Yes, right. Absolutely. That's what it sounded like to me, too. And that's what we took it as. And actually, it really made her feel good just to know she had some kind of contact with her dad. And, I don't know if she ever went back. I know we never went back to the cabin there, but that was a spooky moment for sure.
Well,
yeah.
Are y'all waiting for my?
I'm waiting on yours.
I'm not careful I could share. I mean, they're pretty traumatic, but this one, okay, just picture yourself. You're about 12 to maybe 14 years of age, by yourself. My sister worked in the evening shift at Olympia Mills here in Tuscaloosa. I don't know if anybody remembers that place, but I do very well because several people I knew worked there, and some of them worked midnight, some of them evenings. But my sister worked evening shift. She got off at 11 o'clock, and she had a little 1-year-old son. And she said, Mary Catherine, can you do me a big favor? I said, yeah, Patty, what is it? She says, when it gets about bedtime for my little, we take him out my trailer and put him in the bed so that when I come in, I won't have to wake him up at Mama's. I said, well, sure, I will. And you know how kids are about that age. They just really love freedom. And that's what I went out there for, because I'd put, the baby in the bed, and then I had her album collection I'd put on and listen to. And if anybody knows anything about me, I'm a night owl. I mean, I'm a true sufferer of insomnia. Doctor has diagnosed me as being a true insomniac. Not a maniac, but a insomniac. So one night, it was close to about the time she was supposed to come in, and just all of a sudden, I just felt so give out. It was like I couldn't hardly hold my body up. And the baby was asleep, so I went into my sister's room, and her bed was laid up, pushed up against the wall, and there was a window at the head of the bed, and there's a window kind of at the foot of the, in between the foot of the bed and midway of the bed. And her bedroom was on the high side of the trailer. Well, I laid down, and it was just a few seconds. I felt like I was dozing off, but I wasn't asleep. As I grew up, I know what a trance is, and this was what I was feeling. And I was awake, but I wasn't awake, and I was laying there, and then I looked over to the bedroom window, and there stood what I only knew to be an abominable snowman. Now, back then, we didn't know what Bigfoot was, and I'd never seen any pictures. And the abominable snowman is what I saw on Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but more human and ape, and it had its face up against the window, and it had had long white hair, and it kind of flowed. I mean, I could tell you exactly how it looked. It was kind of, smiling at me. And I was laying there, and I couldn't move. But I was aware of what was going on. And or either I was dreaming. I didn't know at the time. So I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, this white thing, which I know now in Alabama, we have a white thing, Thang.
Yep, white thing.
Yeah, white thing. And about that time, I saw a hand reaching down into the window, and it came up over my legs, and right when it was about to touch my stomach, I go out completely. And then a few seconds later, I come wide awake. And if you ever, when you first wake up, you think you still got that sleepiness, your head feeling and everything, but I was wide awake, aware of everything around me, And I was thinking, was that a dream? It was so real. This is me thinking in my head, is that a dream? Did I really see that? What, And then I sit there, and when my sister got home, I didn't say nothing to her because I know she's real scary. She was real frighty, spooky, and didn't say a word to her. But then I had to go out that door, and there was no night lights. And then
that was scary.
Yes. So I start walking out the door. Started walking a little field out there, and my thoughts was look behind me, and I said, no, I'm not going to look behind me. I mean, it's just like yesterday that all this happened. And I finally made it to the house, but I was still thinking, was that a dream or was that real? It was totally, what was that thing? What? And throughout the years, there's other incidents that happen, like the boy that got almost grabbed at the swamp down here off the motorcycle. And I just put all that stuff in the back of my head. Everything that happened, I put it in the back of my head. I couldn't afford to be afraid. Couldn't afford to. Then several years later, a lot of years later, I started having encounters with the Bigfoot. And I was thinking, okay, that's cool. We're going to do this. And then that was after a year living in fear. But one weekend, my good friends Whoopers and my friend Denise came up to camp out with me. And we was going through, I had the game camera out in the front yard. So I put it in my computer, my laptop, and we're sitting there going through them and all. And about that time, Ashley said, what's that? I said, I don't know. Then we get out and we make a comparison picture. We couldn't see our friend, so I wanted to get up close as I could, so I took it down there to Shuttlesburg. That's where they develop, pictures and stuff. And I talked to the guy, the technician. I said, "Can you blow this up? Can you see my friend?" I just questioned him, and then all of a sudden he said, "Well, I can't see your friend standing up under the tree, but I see her white cap. That's all. But whatever this thing over here in the woods, it's huge. It's human formed. It's huge and human formed." And I said, "Oh my goodness." Well, after all these years, now just think about it. From when I was a young teenager, I wondered if that was a dream, or did that really happen? And then here I've got a picture of something huge and white on the edge of my yard. So the moral to this story is, when you have a nightmare, are you sure it was a nightmare? Or did it really or was it really true? Did it really happen?
Did it really happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had dreams where, before where, I wondered if it wasn't real, So I understand where you're coming from. So real,
Well, that freaked me out.
Man, Mary Catherine, my last investigation, which was the one, and you're talking about spooked out, is kind of got to us, and it was the one that stopped us from ghost hunting, and it scared us. It got too real, basically, and that's when I jumped real deep into the Bigfoot research, which I still do and enjoy very much. But what happened was my granddaughter had been wanting to go ghost hunting for the longest. When we gonna go ghost hunting, Papa Dale, and so one evening, and it was actually on Memorial Day, and I never will forget this. And they were over at the house, and like I say, we live in Phoenix City, Alabama, and just up the road from me is a cemetery. It's a Fort Mitchell National Cemetery, where a lot of veterans are buried there. But anyway, she said, Papa Dale, we're going to go ghost hunting. So, we were all sitting around the house. Well, shoot, I said, come on, let's go, and we'll just go up here to the cemetery, and it's Memorial Day, and we'll go thank the soldiers for their service, and for allowing us to have the freedoms we do in our country, So she was all up for it. So we got our K2 meters and cameras and went up there. And actually, I didn't really expect too much, except just to go and have some fun with her. So we got there, and we were walking around the cemetery a little bit. And I said, now I want you to talk to them. You just tell them that you appreciate their service to our country and thank them for all they did, so we can live and have the freedoms that we do today. And she was so cute. She would walk up to one of the plots or one of the headstones. She would say, "Sir, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for your service." And she was so cute, So we took a few pictures and things, and we got to the point where she was getting a little tired. And I said, "Well, you ready to go?" And she said, "Uh-huh." So we got in the car, and like I say, she had the K2 meter. So we were sitting in the car getting ready to leave, and she said, "Papa Dale." I said, "Huh?" And I looked over, and she said, "Well, look," and the K2 meter was going crazy. And the first time I thought, well, maybe it's just electronics in the car. It was picking up something, So I cut the car off, and I said, "Oh," and it was still going on. So she was kind of freaking out, and you could tell she was actually getting scared. So I was telling her, I said, "Oh, don't worry about it." I said, "This is just the electronics in the car or something." When I was pretty sure it wasn't. So I got to talking, and I would say, and I was saying things, but I was trying to say it in a way not to scare her. I was saying, "Okay, now, if any of you spooks are with us, you can't follow us home now. You got to stay here. We appreciate your time, but no, you can't follow." And, they say you're supposed to do that, and that'll kind of keep any spirits, anything from following you home, or supposedly.
Yeah.
So we went through all this, and it finally calmed down, and then we got to the house, and from then on we had some things going in the house that started from around that time, and I just think something followed us home, and it scared us for a long time. We still do have a little things we kind of catches our eye or our ear sometimes, but that was, like I said, that got too real for me, and that's when I said, "Oh Lord, we can't do this anymore," So we got out of it. But that's
Well,
crazy.
did you ever investigate the night sanatorium in Roanoke, Alabama?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it though, but no. And that's not. I played music up in Roanoke, so I know exactly where it's at. But have you?
I live in Podunk, Wadley.
Oh, okay. All right.
But no, we were going to go investigate it, and we had already talked with the people who owned it and everything. But they were trying to remodel it, and they said things kept happening in there. They were so scared they didn't want to even go back in there themselves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the doctor that owned that ran that sanatorium supposedly tortured the mentally ill people who were there. Even up to, I heard tales of him cutting their arms off and, opening them up and stuff while they were still alive, and just all kind of stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I think I'm going to skip that one.
I believe I would too.
Another ghost story?
I've got several ghost stories. You got another one?
Yeah, I got another one. Go ahead with yours.
Okay, well, it just depends on which one you want to hear. You know, talk about spirits following you home and everything. I think I've got a little table that's kind of my grandpa is attached to, because we can mislay keys, glasses, whatever it is, and you can go and you can say, I'm going in my room and I'll be back in 15 minutes, and I want my keys to be laying right here on this table. And bless your heart, you can be the only one in the house. When you go back in 15 minutes, your keys laying on that table. And it all started after I brought that table in my house. It's just a little telephone table that he had. It's antique. And I've got my grandmother's treadle sewing machine. And they're both in the same room, just like they were in their house. But, yeah, that's one of the things that happened.
Wow.
And in that church where we saw the little girl, one of the deacons had climbed up to change the light in the top of the steeple, and he had already removed the old bulb. There was nothing up there, so he reaches up there to put the new bulb in, gets it started in, and something slices his fingers. He had to go have stitches in his fingers.
Good Lord.
But there was nothing there to cut it. There was nothing sharp. There was nothing that you could see that would have done any damage like that. And he was holding the bottom of the light bulb, putting it in. So, you know, we think there was something in the attic. My dad went up there to take the Bible school stuff up to store it up there so they could use it the next year. And he saw something up there, and he never would tell anybody what he saw. That he would not go back up there, and he would not let anybody else go back up there either. So we think there was something in the attic of that church.
Oh, man.
I wonder if it's some type of, you know, like I said, when a devil's cast out of somebody, it goes to and fro and everything. And I'm just wondering if sometimes these demons come out and they try to hang around certain places.
I would not be surprised.
It sounds very possible to me. It really does.
Yeah.
And you know, they attach themselves sometimes to certain objects, like that table you were talking about. You know, what they call them? What is a trigger object or something they call them? And
yeah.
yeah.
Well, we just always say that the little leprechaun. Hey, little leprechaun, put my keys back on that table.
Wow. Well, my brother-in-law found an old book that was from a Masonic. Actually, something I don't think he was actually supposed to. Kind of a secret book. He found it while working on an old church, kind of buried up under something, and I thought it was real cool. And I brought it home with me one day. I said, "Let me look. I want to do some research on it." We brought it home, and Robin just happened to put a K2 meter on it, and it went crazy. I said, "Oh no!" And we took it back the next day. We said, "Oh no. Whatever this was, you need to take it back to that church." You know.
Yeah, need to go back. Need to go back where it was. Well, you know. Jim used to collect antiques and stuff, and he went one time and he said he got this little wood carving of a cowboy. That it stood about 2 feet tall, and he set it in the corner of his room. Well, his son was, I think, maybe 8 or 9 years old, and he said that thing would turn and follow that boy wherever he went. The whole statue would turn. So it was facing that child. And he didn't believe him when Marty first told him that it was doing that, but he actually saw it happen. So
wow.
He got rid of that real quick.
Wow, man, that's pretty. You know, I was a fan, and I followed Mr. Jim's work. I never got to meet him or talk to him, but he seemed to be such a great guy, and I just wanted to throw that in. You know, I miss him.
He was
I miss the shows.
Let me tell you. He would have you rolling. I mean, it was hard to film sometimes because you'd be so tickled at some of the things that he did. But I think the thing that he was most proud of was when they called him to do the program at the honors program at the University of Alabama. That just thrilled him to death.
Wow.
That is a testament to.
Mhm. And what's really good about that is, and it was really cool, and it stuck in my mind, is when we first went in, there was a group. I think it was probably like 15 or 20 kids. Not well, I say kids. They look kids to me because they're in their 20s or so. And none of them believed in Bigfoot at all whatsoever when we started that program. When we ended the program, almost every single one of them believed that it was the possibility that it was real. So, you know, that was acknowledgement of the proof that he had, you know.
Man. You know, I wonder. I've often wondered, and maybe I can get y'all's input on this, but just my mind just goes out of the box all the time. Regardless, I don't know, it just does. I can't help it. You know, I'll be thinking about stuff you shouldn't even be thinking about. You know, just so far out of the box. But I've often wondered, what makes a ghost a ghost? You know, is it something that just happens to? You think if it was just natural, everybody would be a ghost. And the other thing, this is what I was always wondering about. I can see, you know, a consciousness or a spirit or something forming to a ghost. But for some reason, I want to see like a more of a misty type thing, because I just cannot figure out when you die, how do you take your dang clothes with you? You know, because you see people talking about they'll see a woman that was in a dress or a Confederate soldier on a horse, and I'm like, how in the world do you take this stuff with you, being a ghost? You know, I can understand just spiritual consciousness, misty, I don't know, foggy type ghost appearance that you some see, but you know, and I know that they got I forgot what they call them, the reoccurring type thing. It's kind of like a piece of time just captured that just rotates around and around, time loop, and that kind of makes sense to me too. But still, you know, you got to take your horse or your clothes or your dress somehow with you, or I don't know. That's just one of the things I've often wondered about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something to contemplate. But as far as spirits, I think, and this is just my thinking, I think that if a person dies before it's their appointed time, whether they get killed in an accident or they take their own life, if they die and leave their body before the appointed time that God had set for them to die, I think they're doomed to wander until that particular time. And I also think that sometimes some people don't know that they've passed, and so they refuse to leave this walk, and that's the reason they're still around. And they're living their life day in, day out, just like they always did, which means clothes, riding a horse or whatever. Right. They just do that, and that's what I think it is. And I think some of them are just imprints. What you're talking about, like on places and things, that just loops over and over and over and over.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So I think you could very well be right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a story I'm going to share with y'all.
Okay.
This really happened now. Back in 2014, no, it was 2011. No, it was 2004. Sorry. My granddaughter, she's a military brat. We didn't get to spend much time with her. She decided she would come and stay the summer with us. Well, she wasn't too happy, and after a month or so, she wanted to go home. So I talked my mother in. I said, well, I've got to go to the Ritter, Louisiana, to take my granddaughter home. I said, you want to go with me? And she said, sure, we'll go. So we go. we take her home, and I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know if y'all have ever felt this or whatever. Just going into a town, there is demonic presence over that town, and I felt it so strong. My mother felt it so strong too, that when we drove into town, we both go, ooh, at the same time. It was pretty bad, and my son and them had been experiencing stuff, but that was the most creepiest feeling I'd ever had. So on the way back home, everybody's heard about the Myrtles. Well, we decided we would stop in. Have I told y'all this?
No.
Okay. So, well, we stopped in Myrtles, and it was just people from all over the United States everywhere. You know, sitting around. They had a restaurant there. I don't know if y'all ever heard of the Myrtle Plantations, but it's on the most haunted, American most haunted, and it's ranked up, way up there, high number. And they had a restaurant on the ground, and I was sitting there, I was thinking, wow. I said, I would just love, let's go get something to eat, Mama. And she said, sure. So we go in there, and they had this shrimp dinner, lunch, whatever, with these big old shrimp. They're about the size of I would say, just large shrimp. I've never seen shrimp.
They're called prawns.
Yeah.
They're prawns.
Yeah, and then they had some fries, and I got some coleslaw and some sweet tea, and me and my mother, man, we just enjoyed it so much. Then afterward, we wanted to go look around, and we were supposed to go to on a ghost hunt. They were going to have a ghost hunt through the house, the main house. And so we went in there to the store they got on the grounds, and we was looking around and all, and about that time it was getting close to the ghost tour through the house, and so we was leaving the store, and right when I left the store, it looked like somebody was pushing the door closed on me real fast as I was going out. And I thought, I turned around, I opened that door, I said, who closed the door on me? I wanted to know. They said, nobody closed the door on you. There's nobody over there. I said, well, I felt it. And I said, yeah, okay. I felt really good there. I didn't feel nothing bad out of the way. This is one time the devil really tricked me now. So we go through the house and everything, and we start going into the dining room, and all these people start walking into the dining room. And there was this cabinet there, and it was like a little buffet table where you keep, some wine, glasses on it and all. And I passed by it, and then all of a sudden my mother passed by it. And when she did, the cabinet door opened up on her and bumped her leg. And, they tell you not to touch nothing. And I go, oops. She goes, oops. And Esther said, that's never happened before. I said, okay. But I still felt good about it, Well, I tried to get my mother. I said, well, let's stay the night, Mom. And she said, well, all right. And I said, let's see if they got any rooms. Well, they didn't have no rooms, but except for one down in the main house on the porch. And we walked in the room, and I don't know if you've ever been in an old closed-up house. We walked in there, and it was so powerful. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to stay there. So we came back, and I told my husband about it, and just beautiful, beautiful pictures. Just absolutely gorgeous pictures of the place over there. Crepe myrtles blooming. They got a gazebo out there by the pond, and it's got moss all in it, in the water. And I was just showing my husband. I said, let's go. And he said, no. Well, finally, 2 years later, he said, okay. So I get on the phone, I'm calling, and I said, and Esther answers, and I said, Esther, this is Mary Catherine. She said, yeah, girl. She remembered me. I said, me and my husband wants to come and stay in the main house for a couple of nights. And she said, oh, okay. And she gave me the free dates they had during the week. So, sure enough, we packed up, and I felt so good. I mean, I felt like I was, like I said, I felt nothing but good there. I didn't feel nothing wrong, no scary, no spooky. Yeah, those things happened, but it didn't freak me out. And I was telling Martin on the way over there, I said, you know something, these people with these big plantations like that and they have it open and all, I said, I think they use the ghost, narrative on them to make people really want to come. And I said, and I don't really believe that place is haunted. I said, I don't believe it's haunted. So we get over there later on late that afternoon. I guess it's about 5:30, and we pull up in this parking lot. And I look up, and I look over toward past the restaurant, and I see this guy walking, and he's got on these black slacks and this old flat-fashioned flowy shirt, about what Mel Gibson wore in Patriot. And he had dark hair, and he had pulled back in a ponytail. And I told Martin, he was still trying to park the truck. I said, there's a ghost right there. And he said, oh, there ain't no ghost. I said, Martin, I just saw somebody there, and he's gone now. I said, and this guy that I was seeing, he kind of shimmered. You know, he didn't look natural, but he looked solid, but he kind of shimmered or whatever. And so he gets out, and I said, come on. He said, well, let's go up to tell him we're here. I said, no, I'm going to see where that man went. So I walked down a little pathway where he was at, and I looked where he had walked through this patch stuff, and I looked down, and all there is, if anybody knows the South, you know what wild hedge bushes looks like. And if you bush hog them down, they're just going to come back thicker and thicker and thicker. Well, where he had walked, that's what was there, just wild hedge bushes that had been mowed down and was coming back, and there was no trail, there was no path, and this guy was walking just as smooth as if he had a road to walk on. And I said, I know, I saw something. I saw him walk through this. I saw it. Well, my husband, he said, come on, let's go check in. So I'll go into the store there on the grounds, and Esther was there, and I said, Esther, I done saw something and everything. And then she kind of laughed when I told her what it was. She did say anything. And then we go into the main house, and our bedroom was upstairs. It's the only room in the whole main house that you could stay in it for the bed and breakfast. And Esther was saying, they're going to be talking to you tonight. I said, oh, yeah, sure, Esther. Okay, all right. So we went back to the restaurant. I had told my husband what fantastic food they have there. And I looked, and it was different. It was like I was in a different place. I mean, I knew what me and my mother had been, but this was totally different. And I said, something ain't right here. And I looked at the menu, and the cheapest thing they had was like a chef salad for $18. No, just a big salad for $18. That was the cheapest thing on the menu. So I ordered it, and I said I want lettuce, carrots, everything, but I don't want tomatoes on it. They come out there with nothing but a plate of lettuce for my dinner, and they charged me $18 for a plate of lettuce. And I was just blown away. I mean, I was about to cry. I was saying, what in the world's going on? This is not the same place as that I had been. It was like a time warp or something. So we go back out, and it was getting dark, and then it was time for us to go to bed. So we went up in the house, and we went upstairs. And I was still feeling good. You know, the bedroom was beautiful. It had these canopies over the beds, and they had a fireplace, and then it was a big room. And then on the side of the bedroom, there was like this little small room where the chambermaid would sleep. To back in those days, the maid slept right next to them. But this was kind of down in the hall, and across from her bed was the bathroom. So we got ready to go to bed, and I was laying there. Martin had his back up against my back, and I went to sleep. So I don't know what time it was in the morning, but I woke up, and the covers were off, and I thought, So I reached down, and I pulled them back over my shoulder, and I was laying there trying to get comfortable, and then all of a sudden, I felt fingers. And it wasn't Martin's fingers, because his back was up against my back. And about that time, I felt those fingers toying with the sheet, and it was starting to slowly pull off my shoulder. And I said a dirty word, not a blasphemy word, but I grabbed that sheet in my fist, I throwed it over my head, turned around, and I rammed my head back into my husband's back, and I said that word. And I laid there, and all I could think of, I felt like somebody was standing there next to the bed where that chambermaid was, bed was. And I eventually dozed back to sleep. Well, the next morning, it was right at dawn. I had to go to the bathroom really bad. My bladder was just about to bust. And I held it, and I just couldn't hold it no more. I mean, I was hurting and in a lot of pain. And I turned around and I said, Martin, are you awake? He said, yeah. He said, what you want? I said, you go to the bathroom with me? He said, what? I said, well, you go to the bathroom with me. What's wrong with you? I said, I'm scared. He said, you're scared? What? And he got to laughing. He said, what are you scared about? I said, I'm not going to tell you right now. So sure enough, he got up and he went to the bathroom with me. And then later on, I told him what had happened to us. And we went on during the day, and we started getting hungry about 4:30, and we both thought, we're not paying $18 for a plate of lettuce, so just send it away. So we tried to find us a place, fast food place to go eat. And we was going down the little highway, and then all of a sudden he said, Mary Catherine, I'm going to tell you something. I said, what is it? And he said, I wasn't going to say nothing, but last night while I was asleep, somebody got right up in my ear and called my name. I said, what? He said, yes, it woke me up out of a dead sleep. He said, it called my name. And I said, oh, Lord. I said, and I'm sitting there, I said, oh, we got another night to go. I said, let's just go home. Let's just go home. He said, no, we're not going home. And I said, what are you trying to punish me or what? I said, come on, let's go home. He said, no, we're not going to go home. So that night, just needless to say, I slept on the other side of the bed. We had the light on, and I was pleading the blood of Jesus over us. Next morning, we got up, man.
Yep. Let me tell you a little something about spirits, okay?
All right.
You can leave an electrolyte on, and they probably will leave you alone. But don't burn a candle because they're attracted to the candlelight.
Well, we didn't have no candles. It'd be a candle in the wind. Jeff, you got something else you want to tell?
Oh, just one thing. I remember once on a dispatcher called me on the radio and dispatched me to a home, and of course I knew the home, Anyway, it's like a 3-story thing, glass way up high and stuff, an old house. Anyway, the lady who lived there, she had called in and told the dispatcher she had a ghost in the attic. So anyway, first thing I guess I was kind of making a joke, making it sound like a joke. I said, well, what does she want me to do with it, over the radio? Well, my immediate supervisor at the time, who was on duty, wasn't the sergeant, it was the next in line. He told me, he said, look, he said, just let me take care of that. I said, okay. So anyway, he went and took care of it. He wasn't there 5 minutes, not 5 minutes. And he signed back in and said, I got it took care of. So, you know, anyway, he kind of chewed my behind when I got in to the station. He said, you know, that's a taxpayer. You got to always go on these calls. I said, yes, sir. I said, I understand. He said, well, but anytime we have one of these calls and I'm on duty, let me handle it. I said, okay. But I never went there. So, but the old house, I mean, it's still there. Yeah. It's been several years ago.
Yeah, I've been called in to help get rid of ghosts before.
Have you? But he didn't stay there. I mean, it was like 5 minutes. He signed out and maybe 5 minutes back in, and I guess she was just upset, I guess, you know. He talked to her, but anyway, he never said anything about what he did or anything like that. But anyway, he told me,
we don't divulge our secrets there.
Right. Well, anyway, he told me, he said, anytime we have something like that, he said, just let me take care of it. And I said, okay. So. Yeah. But that was the only call I ever remember like that, you know, of anything like that. But I remember thinking, and it came right out of my mouth over the radio. I said, well, what does she want me to do with it, you know? And he told me, he said, hey, just let me take care of that. So I said, okay. Yeah, he was kind of after me. He said, she's a taxpayer. You know, you've got to go to these calls. I said, well, I was going to go. And he said, well, you got to think about it before you say anything, because, you know, this stuff's real to a lot of people. I said, yeah, you're right.
Point blank is real anyway. You might not believe it is real, but it is real.
It is real, yes.
It is real.
Yeah.
And if
it's like Bigfoot real.
I will tell you, right.
Do I know?
One way that you can, if you go in a place and you feel really uncomfortable, and you just feel like, you know, you just cannot bear to be in the room, or if somebody has said something like that, this I tell anybody, but it won't get rid of it permanently, but you can take and just get you a box of table salt and take that salt and start behind the door on the left-hand side of the door, or if it opens the other way, you're going to start on the left-hand side of the door, and you're going to walk counterclockwise all the way through the house. Sprinkle that salt all along the edge, especially around the bottom of the windows and everything, all the way through the house while you're saying the Lord's Prayer. When you get back to the other side of the door, before you put the line of salt across the door, you say something about every negative entity, any bad spirit, any supernatural happenings, anything that you don't want there. You say, you've got to leave, and you've got to leave now. You'll feel it go out. And when you feel like everything is out, sprinkle that salt across the doorway and connect it to where you started. Tap your foot on it and say, it is finished. And you'll be protected by the blood of Jesus.
Well, I tell you what,
that's good information to know.
There's a lot of things that happens in the spirit realm that some people may experience, but others don't. So you got to take, you know, if somebody calls you and they say they see something, they hear something, they probably are, and it's not mental illness either. If you stay long enough, you're going to see it and feel it too.
Yep.
Well, it's like with Bigfoot, you know, a lot of people probably don't believe in that, but seeing is believing. When you see him, you know. Man, I mean, it's automatic, you know. There is no more doubt. There's no doubt left.
Well, you know, I always tell everybody, don't believe in Bigfoot, don't believe in ghosts, don't believe in UFOs, don't believe it until you see it yourself.
Right.
I don't want you coming to being a skeptic telling me that I'm crazy because I believe it.
No.
And I'm not going to tell you you're crazy because you don't believe it. That's, you know. But don't take anybody else's word for it. Find out for yourself.
Find out for yourself. That's true. That's true.
Well, y'all know we've been talking an hour.
Oh, we have. Well, y'all been hearing my dog bark, too. There's something out in the yard. She's been growling. I don't know. Might be that cat again. I don't know.
Could be.
Huh? Y'all listen. I think I hear it.
Yeah, I hear it. Well, I tell you what, if I was sitting in a deer stand, that would scare me, Mary.
What? Honey, right it would. It scares the heebie-jeebies out of me. How about you, Dale? Would that scare you?
Oh, you got that right. It's already scared me. Oh, mercy. You sure you don't have Martin tied up in the basement somewhere, do you?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Somebody's just freezing. Somebody's just freezing.
It sounds like it's in torment.
Will you tell Mr. Martin I said hello, by the way, before I forget?
I will. He's upstairs. Oh, goodness. This has been good. It's been real good. You know, I think
It's been a good night.
somebody from wait, is it a ghost telling a ghost story, Dorothy?
What's that?
Oh,
Well,
I think Brother Jim's gonna. Well,
I'm going to put Brother Jim on. I sure am. And you know, we'll do this again next week too.
Do what?
I said we can do this again next week too.
Oh yes.
See if we can get some other interesting ghost tales and just unexplained paranormal happenings. That would be good.
Yeah, and you know, we're not really defining all of these ghost stories for the public, but I want you to think about what all's been said here. If you have any questions concerning the stories that you've heard that are truth, please comment in the comment section below.
I want to tell you this ghost story tonight about Zana. Now, what was going on was back in the 20s, I believe was when it was when the Depression hit the United States. And in that time, a lot of banks went out of business. They went bankrupt, and a lot of people lost a lot of money because when back in those days, the banks were not insured, and what money they had in the bank was just gone when the banks folded and went under. So anyway, this man had begun keeping his money in the walls of his house. And let me show you this. He would put his money in a glass fruit jar, and when that jar got full, he would put it in another one. It's believed that he had 5 fruit jars packed with money, coins, and paper dollars when this event happened. Anyway, he had taken some boards off the wall, and that was where he hid his money in those days. This was probably in the 1930s. On Halloween afternoon, it was getting about dark, and he had a farm, and about dark, as he always did, he went out to the barn to feed his livestock, his horses, mules, and cows, and whatever, chickens, whatever else he had. And as he was in the barn, he heard something burning. It sounded like a large fire. So he ran out of the barn, and he looked back up the hill at his house, and he could see that his house had caught fire. It was probably had caught fire from his fireplace because it was pretty cold that afternoon, and he had built a fire. And luckily, his family had gone visiting this particular Halloween. His children had gone to, and wife had gone to another family's house, and they were going to go trick-or-treating. But anyway, he saw this, his house was burning. So he ran out of the barn and ran back to his house. He knew he had to get these boards pulled off the wall real quick before the house burned up, or he would lose what little savings that they had. So that's what he did. He ran in the house and he began pulling the boards off of the wall the best he could. and he managed to get them off. He managed to get his 5 fruit jars of money out of the wall, but he did not manage to not catch on fire. While he was doing all this, the fire was getting hotter because old houses back then were just lighter, pretty much. They were made out of pine, and when they once caught on fire, there was just pretty much no saving them. They burned very quickly, and that's what was happening here. His clothes caught on fire, and he ran out of the house. The only place that he knew, or so it's believed, to put the fire out was at the bottom of the hill. There was a creek down there, and this is a picture of the bridge now over Highway 22 that crosses this particular creek. And that was in the direction that he ran while his clothes were burning and he was burning, trying to get to the creek to jump in to put the fire out. But now that's the story of what happened. Now this is the story of what you'll see if you go down that way. I can't guarantee you that you'll see it on Halloween night, but the lady that told me about it said when she was young that her mother and father used to carry her and her brother and sisters on this road, and some other children in the community, other families that wanted to see this particular event. It usually happened around midnight. And what they did, they went down Highway 22, they turned on to Chapel Road and traveled down it about a half a mile. And then after about a half a mile, you'll come to an uphill. And on top of the hill, you'll find a place to turn around, as you see in this picture. Then when you turn around, this is what she said that they did. When you turn around in this little road, then you will begin to go back down the hill. You just sort of coast down the hill real slow. And you look to your left, and out in these woods, you will see the house burning. She said many times they would have the car windows down, and said you could actually hear the popping, crackling sound. That's when a house does burn and the wood begins to get extremely hot, and it goes to popping and cracking. And she said she had actually smelled the smoke off this fire, and had many times when she was young actually thought it was a house burning, but it's a phantom house out there. They've actually seen the man run from this house. The house would be completely engulfed in flames, and as the man ran off the porch, he would be burning and would run toward the creek at the bottom of the hill. And she said she has actually seen this more than one time. So it could be, if you visit Zana on Halloween night around midnight, you might see this same phantom house burn one more time. Well, thank you for joining in to Alabama Adventures tonight. That was a little quick ghost story. And one other little note I would like to add to this episode is we dedicate this episode to the memory of a very good friend of mine, and a very good friend of a lot of people in this area, Penny Parrish. Penny passed away in a car accident not very far from where this ghost story actually took place, just a short time ago. And if Penny is watching tonight, we hope she enjoyed it, and we would like to tell her that we still miss her very much. That was a little quick ghost story from down in Tallapoosa County, and of all places, one of the little mystical, magical places down there, Zana. And I'd like to say, as I always do, hello to my granddaughter Madison. I would like to let you know that the Alabama Bigfoot Society is run completely out of pocket. If you like our videos and you like what we're doing down here in Alabama, I'd ask you to subscribe to the channel. And with all that being said, we'll look for you next time on the next Alabama Adventure.
All right. Guess we'll talk to you next time.
Okay. Well, let me close this out. Like I said, I appreciate everybody coming in, listening to our podcast at Alabama Bigfoot Society. And we want to recognize Brother Jim, the one that was founder of Alabama Bigfoot Society and Alabama Adventures. We hope we can at least do him proud tonight and come back, be with us next week, and we will be looking forward to it. And good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.